Good morning and happy Thanksgiving to you all. We are in the car headed out to my side of the family, to the farm for the day. Tess, what do you think of this road trip? She's giving her opinion. She would rather be there.
Goose or duck or both, and then there maybe on a rare occasion would be a small turkey. I mean, the turkey was not goose. Goose is like having all dark meat. It's awesome. But there was always dumplings. I mean, they go really well with gravy. I mean, you know, rather than potatoes. I mean, we always had potatoes, but the dumplings were probably the bigger deal.
Chores make most of the food? I love it when you bring stuff to
Yeah, they all did it together. And we, you know, there were times I guess we did do Thanksgiving with Dad's side of the family, and that would be done at
took all the Velveeta cheese.
Aunt Alma's house in
Always Aunt
Clayton. Oh yeah, and there was a great spot for playing football in the yard next to the house, and that was always, you know, all the cousins. And of course, you can imagine there were a lot of boy cousins in our family, so I mean, it was usually quite a football game. At Aunt Alma's, it was people everywhere because, of course, there's
more like a reunion almost.
Yeah. Well, there were 10 children. Most of them had more than 2. Several had 3. We had the most with
Yeah,
4. There
right.
were several that had 4. But so that was our Thanksgiving tradition.
Did you have pumpkin pie?
Oh yeah.
What were the
Odyssey
pies?
desserts?
Raisin cream, I bet.
You know, there was always raisin cream around. Whenever there was a ring gathering, there was raisin cream.
What games would you play besides football?
We would play Candyland, Chutes and Ladders,
She was making raisin.
especially when the Reams got together at Aunt Elma's. The Trout boys, that's her sons, had great games. So, you know, all the really good board games they had. And we would play those all afternoon. And then adults, of course, would play 10-point pitch. Anywhere there was a family gathering.
I remember the Vermeer ones. Going to Uncle Harold and Aunt Effie. And the guys would go out and hunt in the morning somewhere.
What would they hunt?
Cousin Phil, who was the oldest boy cousin, and everybody followed him.
Who ended up at the Pentagon.
Uh-huh. But he was the big cousin who everybody wanted to follow. We had turkey and dressing, and cooked potatoes, and always pumpkin pie, pecan pie. I don't really remember any other traditional dishes. It was just fun, because it was cousins everywhere. They lived on a big old farm. They lived in the house that my dad and all of his siblings grew up in.
That
So it
is
was
Ramble.
real, yes, really old house, dirt floor in the basement.
Had a close shoot that we would crawl through.
Oh yeah, and the ceiling in the basement was real low, and there were stones for the foundation of the house. It was
That
creepy.
they got down from the creek.
Oh, I didn't know that. It was creepy, yeah. But it was fun at Aunt Effie's house because she wasn't too strict. She pretty much would let us do whatever.
I didn't know that she knew all that we did.
I'm sure she didn't. So yeah,
But you got away with it.
what do you remember, Carol?
I don't remember always going to the Vermeers. We would go sometimes to the Holsteins. One year I remember going to the Skoidemans, which was great grandma Holstein's mom's side. And sometimes we'd go to the Vermeers, but if we went to the Holsteins, you did not have turkey. Because Uncle Ken was a cattle farmer. And he did some pigs. So you had ham or roast beef or both.
Oh, I forgot
It
that.
wasn't until some of us cousins were in high school that we kind of petitioned and we have to have turkey. It's Thanksgiving. So I don't think I ever had turkey on Thanksgiving Day until probably high school. It was a big deal for Grandma to have to make turkey, I think because it wasn't in her box. You know, she had never...
In her regular thing.
Right, she had never made it before, so it was kind of like a big deal to her because how do I do this and all of this. And back then, you put these skewers in and you'd tie the legs together with this string and
Not fun for you.
yeah, it wasn't. It was more work than now. And Pat and I were talking about this the other day. You know, it didn't matter how many people were coming. You just all piled into a house. It didn't matter if you had enough room or not.
And
That's
really,
just how you
nobody
did it.
had big houses
No.
in our world.
No, our farmhouse was probably the biggest till Uncle Ken and Eunice built that new one after the fire.
Right, but before that,
Yeah, and like at Uncle Harold's where Pat was talking about, we played upstairs a lot of times if we weren't playing outside.
in the attic.
Yes, they had the coolest attic.
Oh, that was so much fun.
That was fun. I remember pumpkin pie. I don't remember pecan pie like you did.
Oh yeah, that was Mom's favorite.
Ah, and
Pumpkin
so,
pie with whipped cream.
You know, I remember the ham
knew
and the
pecan.
roast beef, and I'm sure we always had mashed potatoes.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember other stuff, and
Yeah.
the pies.
Yeah.
And yeah, the fun thing was playing all afternoon with the cousins. We always had to leave like about around 5 o'clock because all the uncles and dads had to do chores.
Right.
So, you know, we probably came about 10:30, 11. Oh,
yes.
we always had Thanksgiving service at church on Thanksgiving morning.
Right. We went to church.
You had to go to church first. Guys did the chores, you went to church. And there was a pastor, he wasn't there when we were there, but he started this tradition. His name was Reverend Bernstein. I think one year, if I remember correctly, the crop was really bad.
Yeah. The crop
And so,
failed.
you know, everything was less for people being such a farming community. And he decided that he would buy apples for all the children in church. And so in the front of the church, this started before I was born. In front of the church were all these boxes of Washington Red Delicious
Big
apples.
cases.
And at the end of the service, when everybody was singing the last hymn,
Connie,
he'd
thankful
have
people come.
all these kids come down the aisles, and he would hand them all a big red apple. And we just thought it was the coolest thing, getting this big red apple.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a tradition always. You went to Thanksgiving service in the morning, and you got the apple. Then you went home and maybe changed your clothes.
Yes.
Went to the cousins, played all afternoon, which seemed like forever, and then had to leave about 5 o'clock or so.
Well, you for sure changed your clothes because you would never wear your church clothes to play.
right,
Ever.
and we always wear a dress to church at that time.
Always. Oh,
So-
that's so fun. That's a wonderful question, Paul. I love it.
Sunday, Monday, happy days. Tuesday, Wednesday, happy days. Thursday, Friday, happy days. The weekend comes, my cycle hums, ready to race to you.
Gonna be our news ladies, Joanna.
Hey, girly. Video on. The Pilgrims, it was in England, and there was like this big house. It was, it used to be like where people slept during like when they were traveling, but now it was like a house, and some of the Pilgrims lived there. And there was Hope, Fear, and Jonathan Brewster. Jonathan Brewster made a little boat, so he wanted to see if it float on a little puddle. They were testing it, and their father was calling them. And Hope and Fear ran, but Jonathan Brewster stayed there to watch the boat. And then he ran to catch up. And he said there was going to be a royal guest at their house to spend the night. And they went into their mom's room. She was knitting, and she looked up from her knitting, and they said, a royal guest is coming. A royal guest is coming tomorrow. And she's like, what? And their father comes in and says, yes, there's going to be a royal guest. And the next day, they were waiting and waiting for the royal guest. And they could see this little carriage come down. When they saw, when she hopped out, I think it was Fear that said, where's the crown? Because it was a queen. Queen Elizabeth.
Oh my gosh.
This was hard. Lifetime ski pass for everywhere.
Yes!
22-pound bass.
Oh my gosh.
That
I
is
got
tough.
beat out.
Yeah, that one.
Lifetime ski pass.
A 22-pound bass.
That's
No.
like a shark.
Have you caught an 8-pound bass?
Yeah, no, but I've seen pictures.
A lot of good ones
We
here.
totally
a hot
got
new
that one.
home-based business opportunity.
Okay, so I just want to say that like all 5 except 1 are
Then just do
awful.
it.
For 150, your signature is officially added to the
Sit here when you make your
Declaration of
nugget.
Independence.
higher in front of me.
That's because there's a bunch of junkers. 250, no more spam in your inbox.
Whew, that got higher than I thought.
Yeah, it's because there's a bunch of junkers.
What's your 300 junker?
300 was the only good one. Your YouTube video goes viral.
That was too.
Now, I feel really bad for whoever gave me this because they're competing against hard competition. The latest version of an Xbox with every game that'll run on it.
250.
But long hot showers whenever you want takes the steaming lead.
Oh my word! How did
steaming lead.
I don't know. I just like. I could totally see him going for this.
Oh my word!
Like a 22-pound bass, baby.